What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
Well, here it's an S.
Hey there, Enthusiacs. Welcome back to Hero Talk. I'm your host, Judge Greg. Let me introduce to you our panel for today. On my digital right, I have the Black Dragon himself, Vernon. Vernon, how's it going?
Breathing fire as usual and taking names at the same time. So, it's pretty good.
Awesome. On my digital left, Axalon, Devourer of Worlds. Axie, what's going on?
Just axing some people, that's all.
You do what you gotta do, man. Today's movie is Man of Steel, and as always, Hero Talk is a spoiler podcast. We will spoil this movie, and in fact, let me expand that, because we're probably going to make fair game the original 4 Superman movies, Superman Returns, and anything in the comic books that we've read. Fair game. Let's just put that out there. So if you don't want that spoiled, you need to turn it off right now. And I mean right now, because Superman breaks Zod's neck at the end. Yeah.
And Bruce Wayne's parents die.
They do. That's right. We're
We'll
spoiling
also
it.
be spoiling other stories for you. Outside
Soylent
of
Green
Superman.
is people. All right. So, hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Let's talk Man of Steel. Let me just put my cards on the table. I like this movie. I didn't love it.
All right.
That's fair. Yeah.
I don't know. Like this was a movie that it seemed like I ran into a lot of people who either were like me, were like, yeah, it was a good movie. I mean, it wasn't the best movie, but it was a good movie. And you have the people who were just adamant in their hate about it. And let me just make one thing clear before we move on. This is an argument that I do not like to hear and I don't tolerate. When somebody says the real Superman wouldn't have done that.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
let me just make something perfectly clear, folks. Superman does whatever the writer wants him to do. So, if the writer wanted Superman to break Zod's neck, Superman is going to break his neck. So don't tell me Superman wouldn't do that, because Superman isn't real. It's my least favorite comic book movie argument.
Well, you gotta consider that we grew up with a less violent Superman. This is shocking to some people who have grown up with the comics and the television shows and the Justice League animated cartoon, and he
I think
never did that, except for in the alternate universe where he melts Lex Luthor's face off.
I think a lot are just used to Christopher Reeve's Superman, who was pretty much old school Silver Age comic book Superman, who was super nice, could get anything done, by just like thinking about it pretty much. And this is like not that.
Chris, I gotta say, like in my head, when I think Superman, when I kind of read in comic books, the voice I hear in my head is Chris Reeves, and I understand that, but I also understand that he can't play Superman anymore, and that sometimes you got to change the character to fit the new generation.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't have any problem with Henry Cavill as Superman.
No,
I
I didn't either.
I
I liked him.
Yeah. So a little fun fact: way back when Batman Begins was being cast, Henry Cavill was on the short list to play Batman.
Okay.
You can
He
kind
has
of
the
see
chin.
it. He does
He
have
has
the
the
chin.
chin.
The problem is, and you got to
He had a
remember
good chin
this:
for Batman.
this would have been about 10 years ago. So you would have had 10 years younger Superman playing Batman, and I think maybe that wasn't the right way to go.
Well, I never knew about Henry Cavill before this. I actually thought I confused him with Jim Caviezel from The Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
So,
Like, wow, they're taking this Jesus metaphor a little far.
right?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you
So
are.
I didn't know who Henry Cavill was until
Right.
Superman was like in production and they announced who was going to play him and stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can see him as Superman. Cool.
Yeah, I knew Henry Cavill. I think the first movie I saw him in was The Count of Monte Cristo, where
Oh yeah.
he played the son of Jim Caviezel's character. Jim Caviezel played the Count of Monte Cristo. Henry Cavill was his son.
All right, so come full
Brought
circle.
it full circle, brought it back. But yeah, I liked him. Now, I want to say I actually liked Brendan Routh, and there was a lot I did not like about Superman Returns, but I think Brendan Routh was a good Superman.
I definitely agree with you there. The Superman Returns had a lot of flaws, but he was not one of them. He was a fantastic Superman.
No, I thought he was great. I mean, I understand if you maybe are trying to distance yourself from that, then you want to get a different Superman. And Henry Cavill was fine. In fact, I actually quite like him as Superman. I thought he was very likable. But I don't know, Brendan Routh I thought was also quite likable, and I did like him as Superman.
I don't know. Like, I never saw the Superman Return, so
Yeah.
maybe I have no frame of reference for that. But I thought, I mean, just from looking at Brendan Routh, I didn't really see Superman.
Yeah.
I see Superman with. I almost said Jim Caviezel.
Yeah.
I almost said
No,
Jim
it's his
Caviezel.
son. It's his son.
Yeah. Henry Cavill. There we go. So yeah, I saw him as definitely like, okay, that's Superman.
Yeah,
That chin though.
I do like that. The guy looks like Superman. I mean, that's the number one thing, and I think giving him a little bit more time to age has made him. I don't know how old he actually is. I know he's playing 33, but I imagine that he's probably 40. And I know one of you is Googling it right now, so I just shout it out when you got it.
Who, Henry Cavill or
Henry
Brendan
Cavill.
Ruth?
Or Jim Caviezel.
No, not Jim Caviezel.
Okay,
He's
Henry
31.
Cavill.
31. All right, so holy cow, so he would have been 21 playing Batman. Now that's way too young.
Yeah, no.
So this movie was directed by Zack Snyder. Now, Zack Snyder's style is pretty clear. He likes the speed up, then slow down, then speed up, then slow down. And I would have thought of any movie that really could have benefited from that. It was Man of Steel. I'm like, well, I mean, you have Superman. He's doing stuff super fast because he's Superman. I'm okay with that. And then turns out he didn't use that effect a whole lot. And so then I have to question, then why'd you get Zack Snyder?
No, I mean, he makes things look good. Makes things look pretty.
Yeah, I'm not in the Zack Snyder hate camp, by the way. I do like the guy.
Yeah, I like his work. You know, he did 300, right?
He did 300. Yeah.
Yeah, all the glistening
he's
abs
pretty
and
good
stuff.
for capturing those great like visual set pieces.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he did fine. There's a couple of things that I maybe I wouldn't have done if I was the big time Hollywood producer and he was the guy hosting Hero Talk, but that's not how the world worked out. So, but I thought it was just fine. I think that the cast of this really did impress me, and there were some people that I thought were great. I actually, and I know people like to criticize his performance. I liked Mike Shannon.
He was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a good job.
I tell you guys, I have heard people rip him apart and be like, now I know he's not Terrence Stamp, and he didn't say kneel before Zod, and I get that. I understand where the animosity comes in, but he was very good, and I think he played a lot of depth to the character. He gave us a General Zod who wasn't just evil for the sake of evil, but you understood his motivation.
Yeah, and that I think ties into why I'm okay with him not saying kneel before Zod, because Zod in Man of Steel is not the type of person who would say kneel before Zod. Like, coming from his own like character motivation and stuff. He's not about, super ultra power conquer the world type of thing. He's more just he's a simpler but more complex character at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, he has a noble goal. He's like, I'm trying to save Krypton, and I will save Krypton any way I can, and I will do whatever I got to do, and if I have to completely steamroll over this planet to do it, I'm saving Krypton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even to the point where he says, I'm not even going to go find some other planet to try to save Krypton on. I'm just going to save Krypton on this one planet I'm currently at, and I will kill all the indigenous population. I don't care.
Yeah. I think that, I'm going to just go ahead and agree with you guys. I think he did a good job, and, he's not Stamp. He's not going to give the same performance. This is not the same type of movie.
Right, he's not the same type of Zod, just like Henry Cavill is not the same type of Superman.
Yeah.
From earlier.
I know. It was a little... the problem with some Superman origin stories is that whenever you want to think Superman origin story, they had about 10 years of it on TV for quite a while. And people are kind of a little sick of Clark Kent trying to find his powers. However, I gotta say, I did sort of like Deadliest Catch Superman. Like, fishing for crab and saving people at the same time. And I sort of like the whole I'm figuring out where I'm going, but wherever I go, I can't help but use my powers to save people, so then I gotta take off again.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that journeying the earth and saving people and then having to leave again because of that. And, quite frankly, it's a nice little reference to Deadliest Catch. When I first saw trailers for this movie, like, I'm sitting there looking like, is this a Deadliest Catch movie?
Just going back a little bit, I don't know if there are any Halo fans out there, but General Zod, now that I'm thinking about it, he kind of reminds me of the Didact. Basically, he was just trying to save his people, and, he was persecuted for it because he, did whatever he had to do to get what he had to get done. So there are parallels there. If you're a Halo fan out there, you know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to move on now.
Yeah. Was the Didact the guy in Halo 4?
Halo 4.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I do know that guy. So I kind of like General Zod. Amy Adams The only thing I really don't like about Amy Adams as Lois Lane, which is not her fault, but the scriptwriter's fault, is that she seems to be very conveniently in the right place at the right time. And I know that's what Lois Lane does, but when you're going for the gritty, realistic reboot, all right, she can't just suddenly be showing up wherever they need her to be and aliens just taking her with them because Lois Lane needs to be in the scene. It just came out of nowhere, you know? Like, oh, we want to take her too. Why? Because she's the female lead.
I actually thought about that when I was rewatching this movie. And the reason I came up with is because I figured Zod was probably watching all the news feeds, all the broadcasts, Earth was doing. And they were mentioning Lois Lane a lot, because one guy was on the air saying Lois Lane knows this alien. So I figured maybe they just figured she had some kind of connection to him. And they're like, just bring her along too.
Fair enough. I'll let that go simply because one of the story credits is actually Chris Nolan, and Chris Nolan is sort of known for only giving you half the story and full well expecting the audience to meet him the other half of the way. So that being the case, yeah, I could see that because that's what he does. So I kind of
sometimes the audience doesn't meet him halfway, but
yeah, sometimes they don't, and they kind of get mad. No, I liked her as Lois Lane. I like when that she knows that he's Superman.
Yeah.
Because it's always been sort of a little odd when people just can't figure it out. Not just because it's silly they wear glasses, but like she knows both of them super, super well and she can't figure it out.
Intimately, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a little ridiculous. So I kind of like that not only does she know that he's Superman, she didn't know just because she looked at him, she figured it out because she's a good reporter. And you can add to that when he does show up wearing glasses at the end, she immediately recognizes him.
Yeah, like, a pair of glasses and a comb over isn't gonna fool her because she's seen you before.
Right.
It's not gonna happen like that.
Yeah.
And what that's the kind of thing that's worked over however many decades has Superman been around?
Superman's been around since 1938.
Since like the 38?
Yeah.
Wow, I thought I was gonna say 50s.
Before World War
okay.
II, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he's been around for a long time, and all that time he's been fooling everyone, including Lois Lane.
Right. Now, I can understand that, listen, if you've never seen Superman up close, and then you got this guy you work with who's kind of a doof, you're not really going to immediately assume he's Superman. At the very least, you're going to think, he kind of looks like Superman a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But, and even with Superman doesn't wear a mask, so maybe most people don't even realize that he, dresses up like a person and is among them.
Has a day job and
yeah, I think most people would imagine he's always being Superman.
Yeah, that's the thing that I liked about the final scene when they're looking at each other and she's like, she's got this knowing look on her face, but she's like, I got you covered. I won't rat you out. And just welcome to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that double meaning there.
Yep.
I see what she did there.
Yeah, it's clever. He's been here for 33 years, but so I want to talk about Perry White, played by Lawrence Fishburne. Now, see, I always think Perry White. I think Lane Smith from Lois and Clark. That's sort of who I had to wrap my head around. But then I hear Lawrence Fishburne, and when you hear Lawrence Fishburne, you're like, okay, you let Lawrence Fishburne play whatever part he wants to play in this movie, because it's Lawrence Fishburne. If he wants to play Lois Lane, you let him play Lois Lane. You rework the script. That's how it works, because you got Lawrence Fishburne. And why do you go out of your way to bring a big name like Lawrence Fishburne to Perry White and give him nothing to do?
He was awesome.
He was.
I know he was
I
awesome.
I will defend.
He did nothing.
He held that girl's hand in what she thought would be her final moments.
That whole scene felt like it was added on. Like somebody said at one of the script writing sessions, like, so are we going to use Lawrence Fishburne or what are we doing here? Because it was kind of tacked on where you didn't really need a lot of tacking on. And it was like, well, we gotta add something to this. And I don't know. It seemed like a waste. And I was all on board the Lawrence Fishburne train. I heard he was coming to play Perry White, and I'm like, you know what? I'm on board. It's Lawrence Fishburne. I'm with it. I'm not going to question it. I'm going to assume he's going to be awesome, and then he gets 3 minutes of screen time.
Well, I mean, that whole scene where What's-Her-Face was buried under the rubble, and he was trying to dig her out when they're all about to die. Like that whole scene was meant to illustrate. Because what this movie was doing was not only is it showing the virtues of Superman, but also like the good that's in humanity who will eventually rise up to his level. And that's just one of those small scenes. Like, here's a guy who, if he just took off, could probably survive the alien death rays about to wipe everything out. But instead, he's staying behind to hopelessly try to lift all this rubble off.
And that's a good thing. It's showing what Superman's fighting to save and why Zod may be wrong in terms of like just trampling over this species that may be like, less advanced than them, but has just as much heart.
Yeah.
Humans aren't all assholes in Man of Steel.
That's the main point we're trying to make here in Man of Steel.
Let's just wrap up with the script real quick. I don't know the actress's name, and I'm going to try to say it. Anshe Trow. I'm sorry, Miss Trow. I'm assuming she's listening. She played Feora Ul, or just Feora, or Feor. Is that right, Feora?
Yeah,
I think Zod said
it.
it once, and that's about all I remember. I liked her in this. I don't know. I understand that people were like, she's not Ursa, but I think Feora is actually from the comic. I liked her in it. I thought she made a good sub-villain, especially somebody for Christopher Maloney's Nathan Hardy to face off against. I liked Chris Maloney in this movie. I'm sorry, I did. I thought
They gave Chris Maloney more to do than
they did.
Lawrence Fishburne.
They gave the made-up character of Colonel Nathan Hardy more to do than Lawrence Fishburne.
Wait, Hardy?
Nathan Hardy, that was his name.
Hardy. Oh, I'm thinking
he's not related to any comic book character that I know of or was able to look up. But of course, there is a very famous Navy SEAL named Nathan Hardy. So when you Google Nathan Hardy, that's what you get. So.
All right.
So moving on, we're gonna go past the cast. We'll touch on these guys as we get to their scenes. What'd you think of the suit?
I liked it.
I loved it.
It's a very good modernized depiction of the classic Superman suit. I know they're doing something in the comics as well along the same scheme as what they did in Man of Steel, but getting rid of the red trunks was brilliant. The
red trunks have bothered me ever since I was a little kid. So you can now add 33 years of my life where I thought the red trunks were silly. So I was glad that the red trunks went away. I would have liked a little more gold around the belt, but I was actually pretty good with the suit. I thought it looked alien enough, especially after they had established what everybody wears on Krypton.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was kind of a fan. Yeah. No issues with the suit at all.
Yeah, no, I think the trunks would have been like a big eyesore, especially in today's, and especially nowadays, especially with like, Batman getting rid of his trunks and just going like full black.
Yeah.
Full black, like armor kind of look.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, Superman should follow suit.
Yeah, I agree. I hope Ben Affleck isn't wearing trunks.
And Wonder Woman. I'm glad that they got rid of her like
I don't like her
spandex panties and gave her like a warrior's I don't know, warrior shorts or whatever.
Like a warrior.
It's more ancient Greece, less America.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When I think Wonder Woman, I want her to look as close to Xena as possible. And I think they're going that route because that's what I just think you just take the Xena suit and you maybe tweak the colors a little bit on it and there you go. That should be Wonder Woman.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah. And if Lucy Lawless was a little bit younger, she could maybe pull it off, but it's not 1994 anymore, unfortunately.
I think she could still pull it off.
I don't know.
We're doing an aged Batman. We can do an aged Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman's not supposed to age. The real Wonder Woman doesn't age, Vernon.
Wait a minute. So is this the same real Wonder Woman that's made of clay and was originally a statue? And
real Wonder Woman, who's a statue and made of clay. Technically
the daughter of Hades.
And here I was thinking she was a fictional character.
No, she's not. Real Wonder Woman doesn't age.
Yes, I realize I'm getting way too into this.
All right. So this first scene on Krypton, this is actually a pretty significantly long scene. I think longer than any glimpse we've ever had onto Krypton outside of maybe the cartoon and maybe, I don't know, everything they've done in the comic books. I'm sure they visited it.
I think even the cartoon. Like, this scene was long.
Yeah.
By comparison.
I kind of like the Krypton scene.
Oh, starting out with
with Russ Crowe. Yeah, with Jor-El and Zod and their fight. And although I do think, and this might be, and this comes back in the end of the movie too, but if you're Zod and you've trained for battle and you've trained for war and that's your thing and that's your job and that's your one job, should scientist Jor-El be able to beat you up?
Yes, and here's why. Okay, I have two reasons.
Okay.
First one, not so serious. Second one, actually serious. First one, because he's Maximus, and Zod has no chance against Maximus Decimus Meridius. And secondly...
I'm going to cut that one.
Okay, sorry. Secondly, because the whole point of Man of Steel, like the entire point of the movie, is that it's about breaking the mold. It's about Jor-El. He breaks the mold because he does the whole first natural birth in Centuries with Clark. And because society wants him to be a scientist, and it turns out, hey, he can kick ass because he moved himself past that because he believed that people need to evolve beyond just what society dictates you need to be. So Zod, he was meant to be the general, and Jor-El, he was meant to be the scientist. And Jor-El said, no, screw that. So now he's a kick-ass scientist.
Okay, I'll accept that.
Predicting mass death and kicking ass at the same time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and
you can apply this for the rest of the movie as well, but for Clark and everyone.
It does keep in with Chris Nolan's usual themes of he picks like that one theme for the story, and everything has to echo that theme for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And that would be in line with it. I like the scene. I like the whole scene. I kind of like how Jor-El dies before the planet blows up. Like, it kind of adds that extra exclamation point. I mean, it's completely worthless in the grand scheme of things because everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
But it just kind of it makes it a little bit more personal.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we have anything else to say about Krypton?
Not much. I mean, it kind of reminded me of Pandora a little bit.
Yeah.
I liked Krypton because I felt they had captured what the message of Krypton was supposed to be, and that it's decadent, it's steeped in ritual and tradition, to the point where like thinking outside the box, if you will, is regarded as heresy. And I feel they captured that very well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I love just about everything about the Krypton scenes. The sad thing is that that little dragon thing that Jor-El's riding gets hurt, and you feel real bad for it, and you're like, oh, I sure hope it's okay. And then in the back of my head, I'm thinking like, no, that and every single thing like that is going to die.
Yep.
Right.
And that makes it a little bit sad. I'm like, oh,
All the cool dragon-like creatures.
all the cool dragons are going to die. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a little odd that when the ship is going off, like none of Zod's people ever thought that maybe we should shoot it down. And it didn't occur to him until much later when Zod says, but at that point in time, like, their coup gets undone because apparently it wasn't very good.
Yeah, they were all like soldiers. I mean, if they're invading this one complex and a ship happens to take off from that complex, he had to tell them to shoot it down.
Yeah, maybe it's just they're too good as soldiers. You know, they're like,
exactly.
No, hey,
I was going to say that.
We don't go off on our own. We are not self-starters. We do what
that
we're
goes
told.
back to the whole Krypton thing. Like they are bred for that purpose, and they were just so good that it took Zod coming out and yelling at them to shoot the ship down before they finally thought, hey, let's shoot the ship down.
Yeah, wouldn't have even occurred to them. Like, my job, no, Zod said guard the door. My job's to guard the door.
Right.
There's a ship firing off. Not my job. My job is guard the door. So
Zod said, stay here. We are staying here.
So
Zod said comb the desert,
them...
so we're combing the desert.
We ain't found shit.
With a comb. An actual comb.
Yeah.
So none of them are self-starters like, say, Starscream.
Right. Starscream would have just shot
Zod was Starscream.
Yeah.
That's a good thought.
Yeah. So I liked all of Krypton. I thought it was a good introduction, and you don't ever get a really good Krypton scene that's not just the planet's gonna blow up. I disagree. I'm gonna shoot the thing into space. Like, it set up Zod much better than Superman or Superman 2 did, in terms of like how close his coup came to working. The Phantom Zone thing was kind of weird though. Like, I don't know, Axalon, you're the defender of this movie now.
Okay. I accept.
What, they get like gelled up, put in the tubes, and then shot into like the space halo? Is that that's how the Phantom Zone works? Like, doesn't that seem
excessive?
Yeah, exactly.
The Phantom Zone, I mean, I'm not a Superman expert by any means, but from what I can understand, the Phantom Zone is basically Krypton's prison, and they're sending him to jail for 300 years.
But it seemed... I always kind of saw the Phantom Zone in the comics and some of the other instances I've seen it as like the containment unit from Ghostbusters, where like you put people in it. Kind of, yeah. In it, and then they're just in it, and they're like, oh, so we're just hanging out here now.
Yeah. They said they were going to do some kind of reconditioning right before they shot them in, but obviously, because the whole planet blowing up, that didn't happen. But
yeah. Now, moving on, just one last thing I got to say about Krypton. Some people had an issue that the sun wasn't blatantly red. I think that would have made it really hard to watch this scene. So I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. I mean, can we just accept that, yeah, it's a red sun, but it still kind of looks normal because you don't want to see a red sun lit scene?
Well, they didn't actually establish the whole red sun thing. They just basically said that the environments were so different. Did they?
Yeah.
I must have missed it.
I think Jarrell said something about it at the beginning, right? When he was talking about
They don't say directly that Krypton's sun is, but when they're talking about Earth, when they find Earth, they're like, that's a good location to send our sun. He's like, their sun is much younger than ours. It's nice and yellow. It'll give him superpowers, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very loosely alluded to in a way that just made it okay for me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Then that's fine.
So the stuff when he's young, I can't say I liked as much.
But it's
I can see why. The whole thing with I didn't like it first until the end of the movie, because that going to the whole he neck snaps Zod.
Right.
Like up to that point when Zod invaded Earth, Superman or Clark had never gotten into a fight in his life. Like he is like bullies have always picked on him, and you could see like he wants to like just like lash out and just like punch their face in. But he's always able to restrain himself. And then we go from this is a kid who always held back to this is a guy who realizes he has to snap this guy's neck to save all these other lives on the planet.
So how do you know how?
To snap a neck, you twist hard enough. And
well, I mean, he's never
snaps.
Fought in his entire life. I mean, like
that's a damn good point.
Never fought in his entire life, but he knows
how to snap a neck.
Knows how to snap a neck.
Well, I'm sure movies and books exist in the Man of Steel universe. I'm sure he's something.
He puts all of his strength into it. Mm-hmm. I can understand maybe like watching from like seeing movies and stuff like that, or maybe he was.
Then that makes it a little sillier though, because I mean, so now you set up the scene, Zod, and he's going to burn the tourists. And Superman's got him in the chokehold, and Superman thinks, I saw Bruce Lee do this once. And breaks
I'm not saying he was inspired by Bruce Lee neck snapping someone.
But it begs the question, like, was that the only way to stop him?
Yes.
Well, I mean, if you watch the scene, he could have lifted Zod's head. He could have turned him away. He had
very violently.
If he had,
yeah. That's what really happened. He's like, no, don't look that way. Oh no!
He broke his neck accidentally.
What did I do? That was an accident.
Yeah, like he could have put his hand over his eyes. He's invulnerable on this planet, basically. Yeah. So, it's not that I have a problem with the neck snap in that Superman would never do that. It's just there were clearly other ways.
Yeah. But
the point is that even if he had stopped that particular scene where he's about to laser the crap out of the family, like if he hadn't killed him, Zod would have like attacked some other random civilian, and he would have kept doing it until he died.
Yeah, I think the point that I kind of get at here is that they wanted to set up a scene where Superman had to kill Zod. So we can point out all the ways why Superman didn't have to kill Zod in this scene, but the bottom line is Chris Nolan would just be like, so how would he be in a situation where he had to kill Zod? And imagine that's what happened.
Is this the same thing as we need to be on the same page as him?
I think so, yeah. Like you need to be there that Chris Nolan said he has to kill Zod. There's no other escape. And if you think you found one, then just figure out a way why that wouldn't work.
Actually, Christopher Nolan was actually against that scene.
He was originally against that scene, and he wanted to put Zod in Phantom Zone, but Zack Snyder got him convinced.
Yeah.
That scene didn't bother me, and I know that was the thing that bothered a lot of people about this movie, and that's where you get a whole lot of real Superman doesn't kill. That didn't bother me because he wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, like the way
he wasn't like, take that, you piece of shit.
Yeah, the way you hear like some people who hate this movie describe Superman, it's like he did a fatality from Mortal Kombat on Zod, and then like ripped his heart out and started eating it while smiling and grinning at Metropolis. It's like no,
yeah, no. I would say if there's one thing that I would argue against is that so he snaps his neck and then he establishes that he's really broken up about it, and Lois Lane is there somehow, and I'm okay with that too. But then the next scene, he's smiling and happy again. I really thought, like, for all the destruction, and, you had to kill, which really, really irked you, and you destroyed the last of your race, which has to bother you a bit, you should maybe still be a little upset.
Well, it was some kind of a time skip between
there was a time skip a little bit.
Right, but it didn't... I don't think that time skip was established to give me any perspective that it was long enough for him to be now okay with it.
Once again, you got to be on the same page as Chris Nolan.
Well, you know what, Chris Nolan, I've been you more than halfway in this movie. You need to throw me a bone every now and then.
All you need to know is that when Clark goes to the Daily Planet, it's completely rebuilt, not a scratch. They've rebuilt from the devastation. It's a time skip.
Yeah. And in fact, they're still having professional sporting events there now.
They are. They're taking on Gotham City.
The Gotham Rogues are going to destroy them.
I like that they're wearing black and gold, Batman's colors.
What's left of the rogues?
Yeah, I know.
Apparently, if this happened after Bane attacked Gotham, then shit, they'd have to find a new team.
Hey, they still have that wide receiver who outran the explosion and the collapsing stadium. So they're good.
Yes. He's not playing anymore.
All right, so let's talk about some other aspects of this film because we've gotten off on a tangent. There was no kryptonite in Man of Steel. Good
Thank
thing.
God.
Yeah,
Good.
I think it's a lazy writer's tool that gets way overused.
Well, it's along with the subplots of the coup and the Codex and Zod wanting to rebuild Krypton. I think the kryptonite would have been over the top, a little too much.
What has me worried, though, is that if now you're going to introduce a Batman, and in fact set it up as Batman versus Superman, you know they're going to have to bring about kryptonite. How else are you going to have Batman versus Superman? And having it not last 10 seconds.
By having Batman not attack him in a fist fight, but outsmart him and have him fight Wonder Woman instead, by using her as his pawn.
That seems mean.
Batman's mean.
Batman's cold and calculating.
He's misunderstood, really.
Why fight harder when you can fight smarter?
I guess. We'll see. I don't know. I can't really lay judgment down on a movie that hasn't come out yet. I'm just saying, I worry that Kryptonite's coming back.
I'm worried about it too. I'm hoping that maybe as an alternative, what they can do, because they established in Man of Steel that a Kryptonian atmosphere basically depowers him.
Yeah.
So maybe like he analyzes what the leftover debris from Zod's crashed ship and technology, and maybe he sets up some kind of, I don't know, field that depowers him.
Yeah, I mean,
builds it
I'm
into
okay
his
with
mech
that.
suit.
As long as they don't just have
Or
like,
Lex
look
Luthor
at this
could do
rock
that.
I found, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, Lex Luthor could do that.
Yeah, Lex Luthor's a jerk. I like that he's being played by the guy who played Mark Zuckerberg. It makes me think it's Superman versus Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh man, so that's I'm glad that Kryptonite wasn't in this particular flick.
Oh yeah.
The one thing that I'll say about that is that while I am a little nervous that it may be coming in the future, I'm more accepting of if they went the route of, someone reverse engineered some technology from the Kryptonian ship to use against Superman. Because the atmosphere, weakens him. I bet people have seen it. They knew that the Kryptonians were planning to terraform and turn their atmosphere into something closer to their planet. And maybe they might use that somehow. Maybe they might reverse engineer something from studying Zod's body.
Yeah, maybe.
Or he did take off his mech suit, his mech armor, right before the neck snapping. So maybe Lex Luthor or Batman reverse engineers that, and you get their iconic power suits.
Isn't that in the teaser trailer?
He's in a suit of armor, yes. He's in a suit of armor very similar to the Dark Knight Returns armor.
Yeah. But, I mean, for all we know, Batman just made that up on his own without reverse engineering it because he's Batman.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Yeah, and I don't know why they would be fighting anyway. Unless they brought it straight out of the comic, I don't know. I don't understand why they would be fighting anyway if they're setting up the Justice League.
Yeah, but we digress. So let's talk about some of these action scenes because we're dissecting all this minutia, and it's Superman and stuff blows up, and we need to talk about some blowing up. So let's talk Smallville. I love this fight. I thought it was a great action sequence.
Yep,
I did. Although I thought of, wow, this reminds me of Dragon Ball Z.
I mean, you're gonna get that.
It should.
Yeah.
It should. It's Superman fighting, actually fighting. It should absolutely remind you of Dragon Ball Z. That's how he fights.
Yeah. I will say though, then this scene I'm okay with it, but this scene kind of brought to my head a couple of things like, are we just going to let go that basically most of Smallville knows that Clark is Superman, but they're just not saying anything? Like,
I think that's kind of been the general thing, just like the whole Clark Kent is Superman glasses.
Yeah.
Like Smallville kind of knows, they just don't say anything out of respect, I imagine.
How? I mean, the IHOP guy knows.
Well, that was Pete Ross, who I didn't like that guy as Pete Ross. I think Sam Jones when I think Pete Ross from Smallville. So when it throws me when that guy says I'm Pete Ross, I'm like, no, you're not. Sam Jones is Pete Ross. you have not had your character established well enough for me to accept you as Pete Ross yet.
He was a small part anyway.
Yeah. Now, I get that he knows him, but, like, let's look at some other stuff that happened. You know, General Zod comes down to Earth and wrecks Kent Farm. He goes directly to the Kent Farm. When Lois Lane gets dropped off somewhere and she needs somewhere to go, she asks them to take her to Kent Farm. And the cops go to Kent Farm where Superman is. Like, either everybody knows or everyone's just really, really dense. So I just have like, I like to go with the idea that everyone in Smallville basically knows. And they just don't say anything because they probably don't want aliens coming to their door and blowing them up.
Right.
That, or they don't want to anger the guy who keeps saving their lives from impossible situations.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if he can pick up a
Throwing
school
other
bus.
aliens through their buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sort of okay with that. I just kind of felt that, you know, like, again, I think Nolan wanted me to meet him halfway. He's like, yeah, everyone knows, but I'm not going to establish that. I'm just going to show that everyone doesn't care, and you got to meet me on this one. That's
And
how.
again, it's not that they knew he was Superman, quote.
Right.
I mean, because Superman didn't exist at that
Right,
point,
but
really.
they
They just knew
knew-
Clark Kent was a little weird, and he had powers.
They knew that he had some abilities that were far beyond those of mortal men, and plus they recognized him when they saw him in Smallville. Like,
Yeah.
clearly they recognized him, and so it was just one of those deals where they're like, listen, that's the Kent kid. Whatever, we're not gonna. And maybe this comes up more in the sequel when, you know, because at this point he doesn't exist for them to blow the whistle. Maybe in the sequel it turns into like, hey, we know who this is, and then, you know, maybe
I'd
Lucius
imagine-
Fox has to come down to Pete Ross and be like, so you think that your former childhood friend is a superhuman god who beats alien overlords to a bloody pulp in his spare time, and your plan is to blackmail this person?
Good luck.
I figure at the very least, if Lois Lane was able to interview them and, you know, piece the puzzle together that Clark Kent is more than meets the eye, so can the world's greatest detective.
Yeah. No, I'm perfectly okay if
Yeah.
Batman rolls in already knowing, because if Lois Lane can
Batman.
do it, Batman can do it. In fact, I think Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, not Lawrence Fishburne himself, because he's the actor. I think Perry White should also know because he's also a good reporter. I'm okay with him doing like the I kind of know, but I'm not gonna say anything like the way Lucius Fox does.
Well, he kind of did. When Lois decided to suddenly drop her story that she was building up and arguing and fighting with him over, and like he had this feeling, he's like, it's probably real, but I'm just gonna drop it.
Yeah.
Like, something.
Yeah.
Like, she poked a beehive somewhere. I'm just gonna drop it right now.
Yeah. I was okay with that. I just think if you can establish in future movies that he basically knows that, hey, my guy Clark Kent, he's the Superman, I'm gonna be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So what'd you think about him letting Pa Kent die?
Unnecessary. I mean,
Yeah, that
the
was
fact that he
probably
did die
the-
from a heart attack.
Yeah. You know, he doesn't always have to die. There's many of incarnations where Pa Kent is still alive.
And there's an incarnation where Hucken is brought back to life.
Yeah.
So
So
we don't talk about
but-
resurrections here.
But yeah,
please.
like okay, I won't. But seriously though, yeah, he didn't have to die. But if he was going to die, a freaking tornado that just comes out of nowhere.
that he could have easily been saved from. Because
Clark could have done something without rousing suspicion.
yeah. Or and let's be perfectly honest. If we're already kind of looking at like everyone kind of knows and they don't say anything, so this would have been what, just a couple of years earlier, them knowing and not saying anything.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of to half justify that. This is the most head scratching part of all of Man of Steel was this scene. It's like Pa Kent, he just felt that now was not the time for the world to know that my son can, is a god basically and can do all these things. This is a more paranoid Pa Kent than we've seen in previous incarnations. He's worried about, I don't know, maybe the government's going to try to steal him and make him a weapon, or maybe the world just is going to like go X-Men on him and think he's a freak, and
Yeah, like he doesn't know how the
alienate
world's
him.
going to react. Yeah, and he wants to protect his son.
Yeah, it was really a little bit kind of like a forced sad moment. Again,
Yeah,
and this is, even more so than the Zod moment where like Pa has to die.
Yeah, I think it was unnecessary. I think what would have been better was if he had died in the sequel to a heart attack, because now Clark is established. He's out there punching alien overlords and snapping their necks. And then like a simple heart attack, like with all his power, that now he can't stop this.
Yeah.
I think that would have been better.
It just felt like, especially since Pa was the kind of guy like, well, sometimes you got to let people die. Like, that doesn't feel like a Pa Kent that I would like. Like, now he kind of, I get where he's coming from, but I like the Pa Kent going like, you have a gift, and like you got to use it to help people because that's why you've given gifts. And this is a guy like, you have a gift and you need to keep it hidden until people are ready. And if that means a school bus full of children has to die, then stuff happens.
But that was the point of Pa. That was the point of Pa Kent being was that he was the sort of antithesis to Jor-El, who was telling him, you have these powers, you will be the beacon of hope that will lead these people and stuff like that. You can't have two people in this movie because it just builds up the Jesus metaphor.
Yeah, it just felt like it was a betrayal of Pa Kent as a character. And I'm not even saying like in terms of the comic books. I mean, in terms of the context of this movie, yeah. I would have liked to have seen Pa Kent be more of a moral compass. Like, all right, so Jor-El sends you down here because you'll have great power. And then Pa Kent teaches you where you should be directing your power. And that's what makes him Superman.
Yeah, in this movie, Jor-El definitely had more, well, I won't say more, but an equal share of the influence in how Superman directed his powers and how to use them.
Well, we got to have a cool super space hologram that interacted with people in a fun way. I actually liked it. I mean,
Yeah.
It certainly was done better than in some other Superman movies, although kind of a jerk move not letting Laura have one.
How it should have ended.
Yeah. No, we'll get to how it should have ended, because it's a jerk move, and as long as we're here, why wouldn't you go ask Jor-El what to do with Zod? Why would you just go and find some random minister somewhere?
Some random minister in a random church
unless you
in
just needed to be standing in front of a picture of Jesus because you haven't driven that metaphor home enough yet.
I was under the impression that was in Smallville, that he went back home to his local church.
Yeah, he was.
And that's why he went there.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, and I get, and I kind of liked it, and I actually did like that scene. I don't want to knock the scene. I liked it. I thought it was a good scene, and it was. You almost felt for the minister here because, here's this situation, like there's no chance they trained you for something like this at seminary.
Oh, absolutely not.
So he's just kind of like, all right, I just got to go with my gut here and tell him something because I don't know what else to tell him. And I like the scene, but it just seems like, and it made perfect sense to me. This guy was raised in Kansas. He was looking for a moral compass. His dad was dead. He went to what he knew. And I get that. But why wouldn't you ask Jor-El as well? Be like, hey, Jor-El actually knows Zod. Let me talk to him.
He might have been looking for an unbiased source, because Jor-El, maybe he was, maybe because Jor-El is a Kryptonian, maybe he might not have the same exact perspective a human moral source would.
So you got to think, if I turn myself in, will Zod just leave once he gets me and go somewhere else? And I guess that's maybe the gamble that he has to take.
Yeah.
Will Zod just leave, or will Zod set camp here on Earth? Because you don't actually know Zod's just going to set camp on Earth. He could have gone somewhere else and terraformed. It just kind of.
Do they ever really do that though?
They never do.
Earth is the center of the universe in terms of all these stories.
Is it? It works for Zod. Zod is my job is to preserve Krypton, and I don't care if I could find another planet. This one works, but maybe. I don't know. It seemed like he should have asked, but I guess as I'm talking through it now, I can kind of justify not asking.
Yeah, in terms of that, and why did he snap Zod's neck? Why didn't he go to talk to Jor-El again to figure out how to beat him? This, that, and the other. He's only been in the suit for 48 hours, 72 hours at this point.
Yeah,
max 72 hours.
Like he hasn't had as much experience. This is a rookie Superman. So, it's just like the things that we think of and the things that the Superman that we're used to might think of. This version probably wouldn't, because he's not really a superhero. He's an alien.
Yeah. I guess there's maybe a certain element to that. Like, to him, this guy isn't really my space dad. He's this hologram thing, but he's not a person. He's not somebody I can relate to. He's from this literal alien world. I guess maybe I could see him going like, I'm not going to talk to some alien hologram thing. I'm going to talk to, what I know. And in this case, it's
Right.
my mom and a minister.
Right, that's what I was trying to get at before with the whole I need a human moral compass for the other side.
Yeah, I guess I see that. As I talk it through now with you guys, I'm actually kind of more okay with that. Plus, I don't think, Jarrell would have known the plan to get rid of Zod at that point anyway, because he didn't figure that out until he actually saw Zod's ship and kind of figured out what was going on. And I also was under the impression that that plan really wouldn't work until you started terraforming. You can't just throw your ship at his unless it's actually doing its thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so we've made some references to it. Let's talk about this final action sequence, because this is sort of the one that everyone has an issue with, and we will take it from the beginning.
Okay, this is why I wanted to be on this podcast. This is just to talk about this fight scene.
Yeah.
Ah.
So let's take it right from the beginning. You have this two-pronged plan. You got one is fly the ship into the thing. I don't remember what it's called, so I'm just going to call it the thing. And then number 2, you have Superman trying to beat the space tentacled other thing. I don't know why the Superman space tentacle thing was kind of weird, especially because there wasn't any space tentacles on the other thing.
On the other one.
I don't. Axie, what do you think? Make this right for me.
Okay. What is wrong that needs to be righted for you?
Why was Superman fighting a space tentacle thing and nobody else was fighting a space tentacle thing?
Because Superman can fly really, really fast and he could get there before anyone else could.
Why wasn't there a space tentacle thing on the other thing?
Because that is a unique thing. Zod only had one of them. And that is, it has tentacles and Superman was fighting it before it destroyed the planet. Or terraformed it.
Then aren't we really lucky it didn't work out the other way around?
Well, if it was in Metropolis, Superman would have flown and fought it there. Like, no matter where that was, Superman was going to fly there and fight it.
Right, I'm just saying, I think we're pretty fortunate that Superman, happened to pick the one that had the tentacle things, and not the people...
Well, they knew. They knew which one it was.
He knew which one had the tentacles?
Yes.
How'd they know?
Because all of a sudden, Zod dropped this giant machine from orbit, and it started terraforming the planet.
But it was a two-part machine, and they picked which one they wanted to work with. And Superman picked the one that was further away, and that happened to be the super tentacle one.
Yeah, the one doing more damage to the planet. He picked that one.
Right, but if the one that was in Metropolis was the super tentacle one, we would have been screwed, because they would have just ripped that plane out of the sky, and then there you go. There goes your plan.
No more Phantom Drive. But, okay, I think that we're getting really, really into it, and I just want to pull it back for a minute and say that I think that Superman chose the one that was in India or South America or wherever it was, that he was the fastest respondent.
Right, and
regardless of knowing whether or not it had tentacles or defenses or something like that, he was he was the only one that could get there fastest. And, they flew the plane into the other one. No one knew about the tentacle thing, and it's very likely that both or one of them could have, the one in Metropolis could have had the tentacles. We don't know that. They didn't know that.
I guess maybe if it got close enough, they might have seen it, but they were staying far away until he actually turned off the other one.
Yeah.
They didn't have tentacles until he flew really close to it, so...
Yeah, so there we go. We fixed it. Thanks, Axie.
Try.
That was great, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, so we fixed it. Everybody, you listen to this podcast, we will fix Man of Steel for you.
Okay.
We've so far fixed just about all the major issues that we've had thus far. So let's keep rolling. All right. So we get this. I do think that it was a little bit unnecessary that they couldn't quite turn the drive on right away and they had to figure this thing out.
That was so dumb.
Yeah, it added a tension that maybe the scene didn't get, although it did lead to a part that I really did like, which when Faora goes in on Chris Maloney, I've already forgotten his character's name.
Hardy?
Nathan Hardy, yeah. When he goes on to Nathan Hardy and he throws her line back at her and, basically kamikazes the drive right into the device.
Yeah.
And takes her out and is like, yeah, so turns out I'm just some dude, but I can end you right here. And I was actually a big fan of that.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool, although...
That drive thing, though, was it's not going in. It's push it in. Just just push the little metal
push in?
activation key in.
Oh, well, why don't we turn this thing? Really? You guys didn't get this taken care of ahead of time?
Well, the rush because of all the destruction and terraforming and
the thing it felt like that added an extra sense of tension that we didn't need. And then we get
dubstep.
We get to my least favorite part of the entire movie, as Lois Lane falls out the back of the plane and falls down to Earth, while the cars and trucks and pieces of building are sucked into the singularity. She is falling down while cars are going up. Somebody make that right, because I don't
Metal?
think there's a way.
Maybe it
Metal
was
and
magnetic.
It's gravity,
Magnetic?
though. It's a singularity.
It's
Oh, it's a Phantom Zone warp thing.
So the Phantom Zone works on a magnetic singularity.
I don't know.
So then
Science fiction.
why did it have to suck Superman in then? Because
It
his
tried sucking him in. He outflew it.
right. So if it was magnetic, why did he get sucked in? Are you saying his
maybe
suit
the
was
materials
magnetic?
of his suit are
Mhm.
attracted to the singularity.
Or maybe it's latching onto Kryptonian DNA in addition to metallic properties.
Or maybe they didn't quite think that scene through.
Or that.
And they needed more tension before the final
Yeah.
battle.
They needed more, because in general, I like the principle of that part of the movie. I just don't like that you can very clearly see cars are going up while Lois is falling down. Like
She did fall out
She's-
before the plane crashed
she
into
did fall
the
up,
thing and
yeah,
created.
but again, it's and I'm okay with any of these explanations if you didn't clearly show on her way down, cars flying past her on their way up.
I don't know. Maybe she was further away.
But the cars didn't have any issue. The cars were going right past her. It was weird. I think
It was very weird.
I think
It
maybe
was,
they just,
it was weird.
they didn't quite think that went all the way through. So
They needed to have a scene where Lois Lane was falling and Superman caught her.
yeah, I get it. Like
But they already
I
did.
like the principle of the scene. I just
It's
don't
like,
like
it's like Spider-Man webbing someone up in a web. Like Superman does that. That's his iconic scene.
Yeah, it just kind of felt a little bit more like perhaps. I'm just saying maybe you shouldn't have shown the cars flying upwards while she was falling. Show her being farther
Yeah.
away.
Or maybe she
More
shouldn't
attention
have
to
just,
detail.
Yeah.
maybe she shouldn't have been on the plane in the first place.
Yeah, why was she on? Because she knew how it worked, right? But it was really just you put the thing in the hole.
Pretty much, yeah. She could have
Yeah.
just said that to them
Yeah,
and
just put this
like,
thing in the hole and make sure that rotatey thingy's lined up.
And even then, she didn't do it. That one scientist sacrificed himself to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, so
and that's like the main. That was like the main scientist that actually,
mhm.
is from like the cartoon. I'm not sure if he's from the comic, but yeah, he's from the cartoon, and he helped Superman on more than one occasion, and even turns on him.
Yeah, Doctor.
like-
What was his name?
I can't remember his name, but he's definitely from like
Doctor Emil
the
Hamilton.
Superman.
Yeah, and he's definitely from the cartoon, and I think he's
Yeah.
also in the comics. Yeah, and they killed him.
Okay,
So
yeah, they just killed him off. They sent him to the Phantom Zone.
maybe he gets out of the Phantom Zone.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Him and Chris Maloney and Feora come back, and they're now a 3-person crime fighting team. I'd watch that movie. I would watch that movie. Actually, I think Chris Maloney's looking for a TV show right now. I would watch that sitcom.
Metropolis and Order.
Yes.
I'm willing to do script treatments if anyone
Yeah.
is who has that power is
Chunk, chunk.
listening.
Dun dun.
All right.
Dun dun.
So we got. Let's go on with the scene because now we got to the part that I know we're dying to talk about. Now Zod and Superman fight in a scene that makes the end of the Avengers look like a restrained picnic.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So
Okay, I'm going to go
excellent.
a little
I'm
off
just gonna-
topic
I'm just
here.
gonna let you off the leash. Go.
This makes just like what you said. It makes the Avengers look like a picnic.
Yeah.
Because I have to say, real quick about the Avengers, that is one of the worst alien invasions I've ever seen in a movie.
They were very respectful of personal property.
They were. The NYPD kept them in a 2-block radius.
Mm-hmm.
They were very respectful,
Iron Man kept them in a 2-block radius.
with some help from the NYPD.
Yeah.
And it's like the only alien invasion I can think of that was worse than them were the aliens in Signs who melted in water. Spoilers.
Folks, we said it was a spoiler podcast. You can't get mad.
Who didn't do
So
proper
going-
research on our planet.
Yeah, that was horrible. That was the worst, but the Chitauri were pretty bad too. So going to Man of Steel, though, back on topic, a lot of people were complaining about the level of violence and destruction, about the whole Metropolis is falling apart thing, and that's how it should have been all the time. Like people didn't complain in the cartoon when Superman and Doomsday were trying to tear each other's throats out and they were leveling half of Metropolis. Oh no. Oh, now it's happening in live action. Now it's a bad thing. How come he didn't do like the Avengers did? Well, maybe Zod is stronger or is just as strong as Superman and he can't just knock him out in one punch. Did you think about that? No, you didn't. You're just hating for no reason.
I will say, and let me just interject, and I'll let you back off, but just, I rewatched this movie, and when I got to this scene, I specifically looked at it through the mind of, okay, so how indifferent are they to destruction? And I will say, Superman does a pretty decent job of trying to knock Zod into things that are not filled with people. And I would say about the only thing that he really seemed indifferent to was when the LexCorp truck gets pushed into the garage and the garage is exploding around him. He had absolutely no care for what was going on with that parking garage and who was inside of it. And maybe it was nobody. I don't know. But that's about the only time he really seemed to be completely indifferent to damage going on around him and not even giving it any mind. You know, like, he flew right over the truck, let it blow up the parking garage, and was like, whatever. But other than that, the only time he ever did anything that would have maybe taken other people out was when Zod hit him into stuff. And I guess the idea that he could have taken Zod somewhere else was a little, like, I don't know how, because Zod at that point didn't fly.
He did.
Yeah, he took him to space at one point.
He took him to space, and then Zod grabbed Bruce Wayne's satellite and smacked him in the face with it.
And Bruce
brought him
Wayne
back down to
is going to
Metropolis.
be mad about that.
There goes
why
it's HBO.
yes.
That's why it's
That's
Batman
why they're
versus
fighting each
Superman.
other. Batman versus Superman.
Right.
You owe me a satellite. That should be the tagline. You owe me a satellite.
Yeah, I didn't mean to break your satellite. I swear. Swear to me.
Reporter salary.
Yeah. Good luck paying that one off, Clark. But yeah, so I didn't have too much of an issue other than Superman definitely didn't care about that parking garage.
Sorry, I didn't really think that Clark was trying to be conscious of like the things around him.
I guess he wasn't, but I think people see Superman and they think like he's going to try to minimize collateral damage, like he did in Smallville.
Yeah, if you look at
Okay.
who does collateral damage in this movie, it goes like this. Zod and his army, or his minions, they cause the most damage.
Mhm.
Then it's America.
Yeah.
They do more damage than Superman.
America.
Like they strafed Smallville with A-10s, and they were like dropping missiles. They were doing more damage to Smallville than Superman ever was. And then Superman. He comes in last for collateral damage.
Yeah, like I said, other than the parking garage, he did not seem that indifferent to the destruction going on around him. He was definitely hitting Zod into construction sites and empty buildings and space. And Zod was always bringing it back to other people. And yeah, he wrecked the side of a building, and Zod punched Superman through a building, and there were lights on that then went out, so, you know, sad. Some people probably got caught in that, maybe.
Yeah.
You never know. But I really didn't see Superman as being directly responsible for deaths the way that people kind of made it out to be when they saw this scene the first time.
Yeah, like if you hear like some of the arguments about it, like it makes it seem like Superman single-handedly destroyed half of Metropolis. It's so blatantly.
Yeah, people
a
describe
falsehood.
it like Superman just turned on his X-ray vision and fried an entire block. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, but and then we get to Zod dying. Do you have anything else to say on it, Axie?
I mean, I felt it was done well. I mean, yeah, you could see. I mean, we talked about this earlier. It was like, oh yeah, he could have stopped him some other way, but then he would have just gone on and killed someone else or tried to
Right.
kill someone else.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
but as for anything different, the only other thing I'll say is that this is not a new thing to the Superman mythos. Like Superman is not Batman. He doesn't have a no kill policy. He prefers not to kill. But in cases of absolute extremes, Superman will do that. Like he will kill someone if they're a huge danger.
Mhm.
And he did it most notably in the comics with Zod. Like Luthor, Lex Luthor is somehow still alive after all the crap he's put Superman through. But with Zod, he's like, nope, you're dead. Comic book, movies. He killed him in Superman 2 as well, even though they tried to make a cut where he didn't kill him with the Antarctic police. That was dumb. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say. I thought it was well done.
So now's the time on Hero Talk where we discuss what our favorite part of the movie was. And I'm going to go to the veteran first. Vernon, what was your favorite part of this movie?
Welcome to the planet. The very last line of the movie.
Very last line.
Well, not the very last line, but like second to last line. Because there's two reasons why that's like my favorite. One is it's just the play on, you know, the play on words and, you know, just the whole cleverness of it. I thought it was cheeky, and I can't say no to a little cheeky comedy. But the second reason is that, over the almost century that Superman has been around, no one has noticed that he just puts on a pair of glasses and, you know, does a comb over with his hair and everything like that. He's a completely different person. No one knows him, especially Lois Lane. So I'm
Batman
glad
noticed.
that she. But that's because he's Batman. So yeah, like I'm glad that she figured it out. Well, at least beforehand, like she did the detective work and everything like that, and figured it out. But like a pair of glasses and a comb over aren't going to fool her. That just that's just my take. I really liked it, and I'm glad that they went that route instead of him just coming in and she doesn't recognize him. Even though she's met him before, both in and out of the Superman costume.
Knows him very well in both cases.
Yep, kissed him and everything.
Yeah, but no, the glasses throw her way off. Although Chris Reeve, when he used to play Superman and Clark Kent, he played them very differently. Like,
yeah,
there's that one incredible scene, I think in the first movie, where he takes the glasses off and he changes his whole posture, and then he's like, no, and he puts them back on, and like he did kind of look like a totally different person.
Yeah, he did it very well, switching between the two characters, and I really appreciated it.
There's the drawing somewhere of Clark Kent and Superman standing next to each other, and Clark is all like slouched. He's got his hands in his pockets. He looks like a good 2 or 3 inches shorter than Superman does, just from posture alone.
All right, so Axalon, what was your favorite part of this movie?
My favorite part of this movie was probably when he was first, when he first got the suit on, and he was figuring out how to fly. I don't know, just the scene where he's finally he's accepted who and what he is. He knows who and what he is. And now he's testing his limits. And plus that score helped a lot.
So now we come to my favorite part of the movie. I like the Smallville battle scene.
Also very good.
Yeah, I like that, first of all, that they don't kill the dog, because I thought they were going to do that. And I don't like when they do that. That's a cheap emotional pull. So they don't kill the dog. It's a great fight. He goes, he's saving people. It's a good action sequence. The military shows up and they get all confused. And Chris Maloney has that great standoff with Faora. And then Superman comes in, and then he realizes through all of this, and the end of the scene with this man is not our enemy. And that was the scene for me. That's the scene that says to me, Man of Steel. That's what they're going for. And I think that's the scene that hit on every single note.
Yeah.
So now is the time on Hero Talk when we score the movie. And I will go in reverse order. Axalon, for the newbie, what would you give this movie?
I would give this movie 9,001 Zod neck snaps out of 9,001.
Wow, all 9,001. That's impressive. Yep. This is your first 9,001 rating, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Wow, that's very good.
No movie has ever earned a 9,001 Zod neck snap rating.
It's our very first 9,001 Zod neck snap rating here on Hero Talk.
All right,
Vernon, that's going to be hard to top. What do you score this movie?
I'm not going to try. I'm going to go 7 neck snaps out of 10.
7 neck snaps out of 10.
It was decent. There were some things that could have been better, but it was an enjoyable ride.
Oh, see, now I feel like I need to use neck snaps too, but I'm not going to. I'm going to give this movie 4 dying alien planets out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I went a little dark, and I know that. But that's all right. Hey, and that was Hero Talk. Vernon, Axalon, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Good to be here.
All right. Hey, if you have a movie that you want us to discuss on Hero Talk, or if you'd like to join me on my panel, you can email herotalk@enthusiacs.com. On behalf of my panel, I want to thank everyone for joining us. For more podcast, Let's Plays, articles, videos, and reviews, visit us at enthusiacs.com. Follow us on Twitter @Enthusiacs, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Enthusiacs. And as always, we will see you right back here on the next Hero Talk.